Ever wanted to put yourself or one of your characters in a video game? Donate to the Terrain of Magical Expertise Kickstarter, and you could be a background character or even a fully animated enemy in this brand new RPG adventure. Click the link in the description below or at the end of the video. It's time again for a brand new Kirblog, but not just anyone. It's Voiceoctover 2017. And you know what that means, yes I know. I'm talking with lots of people who work in the VO industry, and they are cool. So let's start now. Welcome everybody, yes, it is in fact that time again. Welcome to Voiceoctover 2017, where I interview various veterans of the voiceover world. Got a whole slew of interesting folks this year, and actually a very different one this time to start off with. He's not, in fact, a voice actor, but you will absolutely recognize his work as a voice director for many, many iconic anime series. A little over a decade ago, he worked on the likes of Haruhi Suzumiya and Lucky Star, and over the last few years, he's directed the likes of Madoka Magica, Blue Exorcist, Sword Art Online, Erased, and one of my personal favorites, if you couldn't tell from the intro, Kill la Kill. Please welcome Mr. Alex Von David to the show. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chris. That was awesome. I wasn't expecting... I was, like, holding my laughter in while you were saying, because I was so happy about that. That was... Wow.
Well, I'm glad it was laughter and not just like the Skype call hanging up in disgust of just like, okay, I'm out of here.
No, that was awesome. That was really awesome. Thanks for going to all that trouble, dude. That was
I mean, listen, this is how I've been doing it for the last, I think, couple of years. I always love to hear the reaction of people at like, this is how we start now. Okay, sure, either way.
Well, it makes it so special, you know? It's kind of like, oh, how cool is that?
I do admit, I'm ashamed to admit that I also kind of picked that song, not only because I like it, but because I sadly have not done a Kill la Kill focused Kirblog yet. Maybe next Anime April next year, maybe I'll finally do that.
Oh, it's too late. It's old hat. It's old. It's too late.
Who cares anymore? You know,
they've moved on to many other shows.
The new hotness is, I don't even know what people are watching right now. Whatever. Either way,
it's like My Hero Academia or something like that. I think.
Oh, or something. You know.
Yeah,
no
like
big deal.
the big one right now, I believe. Yeah.
Mm.
Which?
Well, we're not going to talk about that show.
Have you done a show on that yet?
I have, actually. I was joined by Cliff Chapin, who is one of the voices of the main characters, and I think he also has been directing episodes of it, not like predominantly, but either way. Nonetheless, not important, not a show that you've worked on, so who cares, either way. Actually, I do want to preface, before we get into the meat of this, funnily enough, I don't exactly remember, I think it was through Ben. But oddly enough, the way that Alex and I first sort of interacted, which I was very blown away by, was to find out that he has actually watched Tome and seen other previous Kirblogs, which I honestly, for a while, I felt like, oh, maybe Ben just like showed him something or whatever, like, because, you know, I also am sad to admit that as of this date of, as of this current time, I still have not seen a single episode of Sword Art Online, despite the fact that everybody in existence seems to think that is the inspiration for my show, which it was not. But I swear I thought... Technically, yes. 2004 was like the original crap version of it from centuries back, but... Nonetheless, it was just funny to me. And then I when you were just so genuinely like, oh yeah, and you were nearly going to make it to our little premiere thing we were doing at AX a couple of years ago, but you had other more important things to do, I think, that weekend. But nonetheless, but yeah, Alex has actually been like indulging in my content, which I can't believe, and I apologize for any lost brain cells in that process.
Dude, please, come on, you're busy. You do the voice acting thing, plus you do the animation. Yeah, I mean, come on. There's only so many hours in the day, you know. I mean, from going
too many things.
Yeah, I mean, you're bouncing session to session, and then you got to get home. And now on Twitter, every now and then I see a tweet come up at like 3 a.m. or something, and you're like, "Fuck, I can't get this thing to work right. I can't." And I'm like, "Oh shit, man, this guy's hardcore."
I do try. I mean, some say I stack myself with too many things, but nonetheless, we're 5 minutes in. We haven't said a goddamn thing about you other than my listing off your IMDb or whatever. Okay, I want to get into this. Alex, you don't do a lot of conventions or public appearances, really. So this is a rare opportunity. Because have you done very many in general, like podcast interviews or any kind of behind the scenes things such as this, like very often? I have no idea.
Oh, right when I got on Twitter, and like around the time when Sword Art 2 was starting and Kill la Kill was winding down, it was because we were doing that, we were playing that Twitter trick on everybody where we created
that's right,
the Death Gun account. Yeah. So it was, and that was in collaboration with Aniplex too, because they were, of course we had to tell them, hey, we're going to do this. If you guys are going to keep Death Gun secret on the credit, let's do this. It was actually an idea that the guy who mixes Sword Art Online, Mike Brooks over at Bang Zoom, he was the one who actually came up with the idea. And Ben and I were standing there, and we're like, Hiwei and I were standing there, Hiwei Tsukamoto, the producer from Aniplex, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta call Ben. Hiwei, is it okay? And she's like, oh, yeah. I guess around that time, the Toonami Faithful podcast reached out to me as soon as they found out I was on Twitter, and then they said, hey, we want to get you on and stuff. And so I got to do two. I got to do one with them at the after Kill la Kill was over, or Kill la Kill had done its run, and then I got to do another one with them when Sword Art 2 did its run. Mm-hmm. And then there was another podcast. Oh my God. Oh.
Butt World. That was the one.
No. It was
the Butt World podcast.
No, it wasn't a Butt World podcast. Michelle Tan, she's a fan who lives up in Canada. She's involved with this other podcast. God, I'm so sorry. I forgot the name of the podcast.
Well, Michelle, if you ever hear this, then you'll know to blame Alex for being a forgetful asshole. The point is like you're new to this stuff, so I'm taking the privilege of wanting to get some, because actually I want to learn some things about you, because I don't know actually your origin point. I do know that you did live action stuff before you got into this crazy ass world of anime. How did you get started in just like the directing voiceover like universe, as it were?
I was directing commercials for like 8 or 9 years, and then when that career started to wind down, I just happened. I had gone to film school with Christy Reed.
Yes.
Yeah, Christy. So she was working at Bang Zoom, and I was helping her on this documentary about film school. And I was shooting some interview footage in the morning. Oh, my air conditioner just kicked in. Is that going to be too bad?
No, that's fine. Okay. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Don't worry about it, baby.
Because it's sweltering here, even at 7:00 at night. So I was dropping off some interview footage. The documentary never got finished for one reason or another. But I was dropping off some interview footage and stuff, and then she was like, oh, this is what I do. And I was like, oh, yeah, dubbing. Oh, this is interesting. And then the owner of Bang Zoom, Eric Sherman, came out, and she introduced me to him. And I think, I don't know what it was, but I think they knew I was coming, and I was recruited. because he was very interested in talking to me about this, that, and the other. He was like interested in my reel, so I showed him my reel, or I brought it in like a day later, and then he started talking to me seriously about like bringing me on and doing this stuff if I was interested. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do this. What is it all about? So I sat in on a session. He sent me home with a scene or two from Gungrave, which I think he was working on at the time, or he had just finished. when Eric Sherman used to direct. And then I think I just took a crack at the script at home to try and figure out, how to navigate hitches and stuff like that. I don't know, like a month later, they had this live action movie called Sky High, this Japanese movie, fantasy movie. And they're like, hey, if you're not doing anything for 2 weeks, come on in, you can dub this. And so I was like, okay, cool. And Michael McConaughey was the one who adapted that script. So you can say I kind of learned how to do what I do from Michael McConaughey.
Great guy.
He's
director as well.
Yeah, he's awesome. And that was my introduction to all of this. And it took about maybe a year before I got or maybe a little bit longer than a year before I got a series. I don't know. It seemed like I had worked on a couple of live action movies before anybody trusted me with an anime series.
Like live action dubbing, like foreign movies type things.
Yeah. So I was doing that, and it was it was probably about a year, and by that time, there just was the commercial directing career was pretty much in the tank. It had just run its course. I guess I wasn't cool to work with anymore. I know a lot of no, I mean, I'm serious. It's the directing commercials is fucking brutal, and to have worked 8 years or 9 years, however long I worked, I was lucky to go past 4.
Wow.
Because the turnover, if you're not like a feature director, someone with a hook, someone with some heat behind them in the business, a lot of advertising agencies, they just churn through directing talent. There's very few directors of commercials who last a long time and actually make it a quote unquote career. But that's just the way it happened and stuff. But I found this, and actually to tell you the truth, I get paid a very small fraction of what I used to make as a director of commercials. But I actually have more fun doing this, and working with the actors is I get way more out of it doing this. Commercials was one day, moving on. At least with this, it's kind of like characters, rich characters, rich storytelling, a fan base that actually, cares about what you do. Stuff like that. It's very rewarding on multiple levels.
I'm actually kind of curious, going back a little bit, just for the hell of it. Were there any particular commercials that you worked on that maybe you think would have been known or seen or remembered at all from back? I don't know what point in time this was necessarily. Not to date you.
Probably. I guess from the current generation of anime fans who are watching Sword Art, Kill la Kill, Madoka, that kind of stuff. Probably the one thing that most people might remember is an Airheads spot. Airheads, that taffy candy. With a candy tornado that blows a house. Gets a house sucked.
Oh, that's right.
A dude on a tractor, a dog, some pink flamingos. The pink flamingos were my idea.
Oh shit!
And then another one where,
oh my god!
Where a kid bends a kid in Australia bends an Airheads into a boomerang and then sends it around the world. It goes past the Sphinx. It goes through a cab window and blows the cabbie's paper away. I mean, that they aired the shit out of that.
I'm not blowing smoke. I legit remember exactly those two commercials. That's great.
So yes, I did that, and there was other things. I did a ton of McDonald's commercials. I worked with fucking Hamburglar and the Williams sisters and Bryant and Brett Favre. Yeah, when he was still playing. I did. What else? I didn't do a lot of kid stuff. I did some Happy Meal stuff for like A Bug's Life. I remember that. I did A Bug's Life. I did some kids collecting like little wind-up Bug's Life toys, some of the characters, popping them into jars, like for collecting bugs. Most of that stuff's not memorable because it was only on for a couple of weeks, as long as the movie was open, and that was it.
Yeah. Still though, it's funny because you're talking earlier about with shows where it's like this is a medium where like it's made for people to like get invested emotionally and remember stuff. But it's funny because I would bet good money that if people like knowing that now, if they went back and say, oh, I know that commercial. Like, there's so many. Like, I don't know if you know of Nostalgia Critic, but like he does like commercial. Looking back on those, like, oh, remember how cool that commercial was in like, the 90s and 2000s or whatever. So there is like some level of like, oh, that was cool back then. But yeah, I mean, certainly when you have like a full story to sink your teeth into, and characters that people are invested into emotionally and perhaps physically. I hope not. Going earlier when Christy Reed, for those of you who don't know, also a fantastic anime director, worked on stuff like Samurai Champloo, tons of others. I also currently work with her on OKKO on Cartoon Network. Cool. She's wonderful. So when she brought you in on the first session to like kind of check out what this was all about, do you remember what show it was, what actor was going in, or any of that?
No, it wasn't with her. I was literally just dropping off the tapes. It was actually, I believe my first session, if I'm remembering correctly, was Eric. Eric Sherman was directing something, and I don't remember what it was. And it was just literally just sitting next to him as he was going through the process, just recording with someone. I forget who the actor was. It's just I sat there. I was looking at we have a cue sheet that lists all the characters and all of their lines in order. And the cue sheet is what kind of keeps us on track when we're recording. And so I would sit there with the cue sheet and just cross off every line. I had the cue sheet in the script, and every time he would finish a line with an actor, I would cross off the line on the cue sheet. And that's kind of how I got to learn how the process works, like in that side of the booth. Oh shit! Mm-hmm. Wait a second, hold it. I know the name of that other podcast. It just came to me.
Going back 80 subjects ago.
It is called the Shrine Time Podcast. It was called the Shrine Time Podcast, and it was great. And the guy who runs it is a guy on Twitter with the handle of Money Senpai. Yes, that's Money what it
Senpai.
Was. So that was the
Go look that up after this.
Very cool people, and they have some cool podcasts. But anyway, so there's that. Oh, and I also remembered another thing. Subway Kids Pack. I did a bunch of Subway Kids Pack spots with Hilary Duff. This was right.
Oh, wow.
This was right before Lizzie McGuire took off.
Wow.
Yeah, this is like literally the year before.
You worked with future greatness.
Yeah, well, she was actually really cool. She was a pro at like, I think she was maybe like 10 or something when I worked with her, and she was like a super pro. She was super sweet. When I found out it was her birthday, and so we threw a birthday party for her. We were doing these kids pack spots for like a year or so. So I saw her and her mom and Haley all the time, and she was one of the coolest people to work with as a 10-year-old kid. In fact, I would say that out of all of the kids I worked with back in the commercial days, she had to be the most prepared, coolest, best little kid actor I had ever worked with.
Nice.
She was great, and so when she got successful, I was like, "Fuck yeah, she deserves it." Because man, she was a hard worker and just sweet as you could be.
Well, that's really cool to know. Shout outs to Hilary Duff for not growing up to be like a crack addict or anything like.
God, I mean, yeah,
like many other kid actors.
Yeah, no. She was very level-headed, very professional, just an awesome person. Great instincts, great acting instincts too, even at that young age.
She ought to do some anime at some point.
Didn't her sister? I think her sister Haley was in a Ghibli film, wasn't she, or something?
Oh, I would not be surprised. I mean, that looks like that would sound about right for the cast of a Ghibli movie. Nonetheless, so
anyway, back to me.
Yes, back to you. So you're in the heat of things. You're starting off. They hire you. You're doing some live action stuff to kick things off. So what was the first anime thing that you got your hands on as a directoire?
Got it. Okay, so it was called. It was called.
Something very memorable.
You know what? I have to here because I buy all of the. If the client doesn't give me.
Oh no, you're running far away. The microphone can't hear you. Oh God, why?
I'm right here. One sec. Got it. Okay. There it is. Got it. Okay, I'm back. Hey, can you hear me?
Welcome back. Yes, I can.
Okay. It was called Mirage Ablaze, Rebels of the River's Edge.
Wow. Oh my God, that's a mouthful of a title.
Yeah, and so for that one, Stephanie Shea wrote. It's an OVA. Stephanie Shea wrote. I think she wrote an OVA is like, it's like a 90-minute or a 60-minute or a 30-minute separate piece.
Okay.
From the rest of the show. And this one was about 90 minutes long, and so there were 3 parts to it, or 3 acts. And Stephanie wrote the first 2 acts, and then Bang Zoom, by the grace of their awesomeness, said, you can write the 3rd act. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was like the first time I wrote for an anime, I believe, that I was working on.
Okay.
And then I was also directed the whole show. So I learned a lot actually from Stephanie's script on that too, because I would get her scripts ahead of time and I would go through it with the video. And if I, saw a line that I thought maybe needs to be changed, maybe the phrasing is kind of weird or something, or I don't know, I would just go through the scripts. And so I remember pouring through them just to see how the sync worked and, how the hitches worked in it, when the mouth stops flapping and then starts up right away again. And so, also, she's kind of a mentor to me too, along with Michael McConaughey. Because I did learn a lot from those scripts as well.
Oh yeah, and I mean Stephanie. I mean, well, she's such a I don't know whether she intends it to or not, but she's such a teacher at heart. I had her on last year's Voiceoctover, and she's a person that I owe a lot of my career opportunities to. So yeah, I mean, she's the person to learn from when it comes to this shit.
Yeah. So that was I guess my first anime thing.
And I see looking it up. I had not heard of the show before, but I see a few of the usuals, the Johnny Bosch and Lex Lang and, and a lot of those folks. Mm-hmm. So on this first show of yours, and you got to kind of know. I mean, I can tell just from this, a lot of the vets of anime land. What was as you got to know these guys and work with them? What was kind of your early experience with getting to know these guys and working with them like?
Well, I guess in the beginning, the only experience I had watching a director work in ADR was Eric Sherman, and when Eric Sherman was directing, he and the recording engineer who had worked for him, Patrick Rodman, they worked very quickly. So there was, 2 takes was, going beyond 2 takes was very rare.
Okay.
And if something didn't, say a line was broken up into 2 parts, there was maybe a little micro hitch in the middle, the mouth stopped flapping for just a quick little beat, and then it continued on, it's a comma or something in a sentence. Say the back end of that comma, or the back end of that sentence, I should say, maybe it's a little too short. He'd just say, okay, we're going to punch in for the back end, go. It's that's how fast it was. There wasn't a lot of, so Chris, You know how you know how talky I got with you when we were working on Blue Exorcist?
Yes.
So, I would tell you a little bit about, what I knew about your character and I tell you a lot about the world, right?
Uh-huh.
So Eric didn't really do any of that. And honestly, I don't think most directors do. I don't know for sure because I'm not a voice actor, so I don't go around town and experience all the different, people, directing. But I remember taking note of that and going, Eric would give a little bit of a direction. He'd say, okay, a little bit more sad and speed up the back end, go. And so that was kind of like how it was like, oh shit, okay, so you got to move fast, and you got to be, you got to know exactly what needs to be tweaked.
Yeah.
And that was very scary because, again, I'm starting off doing this thing. And yeah, I mean, I do have experience working with actors, but it's in a totally different field. Where I actually have time to go up to the actor and say, okay, so here's the deal. You're really hungry and you want to get that sandwich right there. And you don't want to waste time talking to this motherfucker next to you. You want to go for the Big Mac, Imagine me telling Hillary Duff this. You're really hungry, Hillary, and you don't want to waste your time dealing with this motherfucker next to you. Go get the sandwich. Just go.
I mean that is very much like anime. Like there's a lot of people wanting to eat sandwiches.
No, I mean
that's a very protagonisty.
Yeah, I mean they're always sitting down and eating for some reason. I don't know. And fruit, what's the deal? I know fruit's really expensive in Japan, but oh my god, they just go nuts when somebody buys a melon. It's like so. Anyway, it was one of those things where I just I got what needed to happen, and I tried to make that work. The first shows that. Or all of the shows in the beginning, the live action shows that I was dubbing in the beginning, along with the first few anime projects, all had veterans in it. Like even Toko. Toko was the very first series I did on my own. I adapted, I should say but I adapted and directed the dub of Toko all on my own. And I remember it was just, you had a lot of veteran actors. I mean, these people had been doing this for years and years and years. So they knew the tropes. They, when they saw the character and they previewed the Japanese, they knew right what to do with their voice and stuff. And I tried that mode of directing, of just leaving the actors alone. But after a while, it became clear to me that wasn't enough, that I had to go back to how I preferred working with an actor, meaning I wanted to give them as much information about their character and especially the world and the story as possible, so that they could set themselves in this world emotionally and make choices that were have the ammunition to make the right choices. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. So I just started working like that.
Right. Well, no, I was gonna say before, when you were talking about the expediency of things, yeah, because in contrast, I've only had the opportunity to work with you on Blue Exorcist very briefly, which I had a lovely time on. But I do know that from just my personal talks with you, and a lot of people who've worked with you for a long time, that you are very particular, very, very invested in what's going on, give a lot of information, and yeah, truthfully, there are very few people that do that. And really, most of the time, it's because either there just isn't time, or the time isn't made to give that information, and it's just, it's got to just be kind of more a machine. It's and I mean, I think that how people seem to get around that is okay, I have enough of a vision of how this whole, whether it's a movie or a series or whatever is supposed to go. And the folks I'm working with have enough, instincts to know what they need to be doing, and I can trust them, they can trust me, and we can just get what it needs to be. There doesn't have to be a whole lot of, guessing from that. But no, the fact that you really go an extra several miles, with it, that is a rare quality that I think is to be appreciated.
Well, I mean, honestly, because I'm writing, because I'm adapting the script too, I know why this sentence uses those words, uses that particular kind of phrasing. I've already figured out how it's going to flow into the next line, and how the conversation, the bounce of the conversation, the cadence of the conversation, all that stuff. I've kind of already worked it all out. And it's all there in the script. And then the rhythm of it, the sound of it, I guess, the music of the conversation is in my head. Add to that, because I've already watched the whole show before I even started writing a line, I already know all the characters' arcs. So whatever decision I made for these lines in this scene in episode 1, I know it's going to be repeated or something in the very last episode. So it's like I kind of understand how whoever the original creator was, I understand what they're working for and what they're working towards. And so I'm just trying, I'm just doing what I've been hired to do, which is take something in one language and transfer it into another language without changing the intention of the characters and what their motivations are and how they get to where they get to and that kind of stuff. So, actors to me are not those people. Actors are part of the show. They're my people. They're like, this is us. We're a little machine, and you flip the switch, and we all have our little part to play in this machine to make it work. This includes the engineer, the recording engineer, the mixing engineer. This includes the people in scheduling. This includes the person who cast it. The packaging people. All that stuff. It's like we're a little machine, and we've been brought together to bring this to an audience in a different language than what it was originally created for. And I respect that machine, and I respect the time that people put into doing this, even if they don't care whether they're there or not. It's still one of those things where it's like we're fortunate to be working together today. So let's make the best of it. And so...
And I mean, how pessimistic can you be when it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, we're making fucking cartoons,
No, people get burnt out, this came up a while ago, too. Or maybe this came when we were having coffee, like, a year and a half, 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
It was, I think because we were talking for, like, hours. And, people, actors are people, and they have, they wake up in the morning and, something bad happens to them. Something bad happens to their family, or they just don't have a good day. And they bring that baggage. Some people bring that baggage into a session, and I can't blame them for it because they're human beings. And
sure.
And it's just one of those things where, as a director, I'm there to try to help them do the best that they can in their chosen profession. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it's kind of like, even though whatever's going on with them in their lives, or maybe they feel like their career is stalling because they're working on yet another background character instead of the hero, or whatever, I have to let them know. I mean, I'm being completely honest when I tell them this, or if this situation does come up, I have to let them know how much I do appreciate, their skills, their experience, what they bring to the table, and I have to also let them know that the fans appreciate it too in the end.
Yeah, and you know what? Well, what's really, I think, is very important about that too. I was actually having a conversation pretty recently with another director who I'll have them remain nameless, but someone I also very, very much respect. And we were talking about.
Why don't you name their name then?
I just, in case they don't want this opinion, fully publicized, they brought up this thing. I forget exactly how we got on topic of it, but they were talking about the kind of unspoken factor of giving a shit. And how a lot of people, whether they're new school or old school or whatever, sometimes they're just like, yeah, whatever, it's a job. Yeah, I'm just gonna go in and give the decent enough whatever I got to do, and then I go home, I take my garbage out, and I wake up the next day, and who cares? And like I used to, when I was younger and before I was even in this business and I was just intrigued by it, I used to really like turn my nose up at that as like, oh well, that's lame. But like I've grown to understand at least why some people get like that, and it's like, okay, like you said, we're human. You're not going to be enthused about absolutely every single job you ever have.
Right.
Even if you do break it down to like, fuck it, we're making cartoons, we're acting. It's like, just be appreciative, right? But it's like, yeah, you can't force yourself if you're not enthusiastic on something. But
yeah.
The fact that like, the fact that in your case, because especially where you're overseeing the entire length of a story, whether it's a series or a movie or otherwise, to try to get a lot of that investment, to at least come through enough to where like, okay, let's make this fun, let's make this an enjoyable experience, so that we can get the best possible end product out of it. Because acting it always comes off as such a like ego-driven business, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be about like delivering entertainment to others and giving what the audience wants and all that hokey shit, But no, I really like, because again, when we did Blue Exorcist, just the fact that you were like spending time like, okay, this is what this dude is doing, and he's part of the school, and this is what's happening around him, and I'm just like, oh, like this is nice. I feel good about doing this, like even though this is like I'm in for a couple hours and I'm just doing this one guy, and that's it. I was still, for one thing, I was excited to finally get to work with you, but
likewise.
But
no, but I'm glad you said that, because I'm kind of just on my own in this industry. I've only got like one or two, I guess, friends who I can talk to about stuff. And actors, they say, "Oh my God, it's great to work with you," and all this kind of stuff. And then really, did you really have a good time? Did you hopefully, going 10 takes on that one effort, didn't piss you off. I mean, in Blue Exorcist this last season, there was this one where it was our last session with Brina Palencia, who plays Mamushi, and in the last episode, she has this kind of break in character when she gets kind of her little, she goes back and forth in the tsundere cycle, where it's kind of like she goes from soft and delicate and fragile to like hardcore, like screechy, shouty, at Juzo. And it was this one little scene, and it just wasn't working. And don't know what the deal was. I just wasn't working, and we tried it, and we tried it, and we tried it. I think it was just like one line, and it was the line when the turn happens in her character. It was hard to adapt that moment for me, and it was hard for Brina to understand how that turn worked. And I remember just, we did a few takes, like 4 or 5 or something like that, and then I said, okay, we're going to take a break. So we took a break, and then we came back, and I just walked into the booth with her, and I said, okay, so here's what's missing, and it's okay to break character. I remember telling her those 2 things, and she was like, okay, I think I got it. And then of course we rolled it, and then boom, she got it. But at the end of the session, she just like disappeared, which is weird.
Huh.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh my God, did she have such a rough time that she was just like, did she feel bad? Did she hate my guts? What? It's one of those things. But that happens all the time where it's just kind of like, actor comes in, we have this sort of intimate, 2 or 3 hours together or whatever, where we're talking about like, feelings and emotions. Granted, it's about a character and stuff, but there's a certain intimacy there. And then they just leave. And it's the weirdest thing, and it always, to me, it always kind of like it kind of hurts a little bit because I kind of want to. And sometimes, sometimes if I get up and out and done with my stuff in time, I'll run outside and say, hey, thank you so much, whatever. But this time, I had to deal with some kind of bullshit in the studio. I don't know what it was. I think it was like some kind of. I had to figure out who was coming in next because we had to move a character, like an incidental character, over to the next actor or something. I forget what it was, but I couldn't get up and out of the room fast enough. By the time I did, she was gone, and I was like, "Damn it!" Huh. And so
see, you know what? This is really interesting to hear. This is like getting real now. No, I like it's interesting to hear this because I have leading up to even before we met. Knowing some of the earlier shows that buddies of mine who have been out here, in LA longer than I have, I'd hear stories about like, oh yeah, no, Alex Von David, like, he's really, really nice guy. He's a great director, but God, he is so intimidating. I'm always like really scared when I'm in the booth.
I fucking
and then
I heard that. Okay, go ahead, keep going. You're not the first person I heard that from, and I don't.
But when I met you, I swear to God, I was like, what are they talking? I mean, of course, I hadn't been in the booth with you until earlier this year. We finally did Blue Exorcist together, but I don't know. It was really. It didn't quite line up. I wasn't really, but again, I don't know, what, and also like, I guess some full disclosure to folks, sometimes when also there are circumstances that we have, both as actors, directors, writers, otherwise, where, the way that a show is going to go is not always, I guess I'll say 100% in our hands. Like there might be certain, demands from above. There might be, some disagreements as to like how certain things are going to be portrayed, how certain things are going to be written or executed or whatever, So, and I know that, I'm sure for you that must be frustrating. I know that rare situations I've been in like that, it's either scary or at least frustrating. I had something, I won't say what it was, but same kind of thing. Great director, really love working with them, and like, but I was like feeling really nervous. And by the end of it, I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ, I hope I did even like an okay job on that, and that they're not like aggravated with me, and the client isn't aggravated with me, and et cetera. It's tough. There's so much like unspoken pressure sometimes with some of these things. Even though it's like some people are like, oh, whatever, it's ADR, it's anime, like whatever. But then on the other hand, it's like, no, I'm just trying to do a good fucking job, guys.
Yeah, no, you know what? A lot of the newer folks to anime, those are the ones who I feel a lot of the tension and the pressure and stuff coming from, because they want to, they want to book the leads. They want to, book conventions. They want to, be known and all this kind of stuff. I remember sitting one person down. It was, we had to recast and stuff on this one show, and I found out that this one actor was very upset about it. So I called the actor up and I said, listen, I'm really sorry that this happened, that the recasting happened. But it's actually good because you don't have this character in you. It is not a part of you. And even though your voice, quote unquote, sort of sounded okay for the character, that doesn't cut it. And you'll get massacred by the fans. These people that you're trying to get their love or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's about. I tried explaining to them that all of this kind of pressure that you're putting on yourself as an actor to book work, to make a living doing this even, not just the convention stuff and the more exposure and, all that stuff, but just doing what you love for a living. That kind of pressure that you're putting on yourself, it will break you in half if you allow it to break you in half. If you give it that kind of power, and the people who want to be actors, the ones who survive are the ones who do it because they have to. They can't explain it. It is something that it is literally like a calling, and it works for them when it works. When it doesn't work for them, it also works. And I've kind of moved around in a bunch of different worlds, and I've known and worked with a bunch of different kinds of actors, not just voice actors. Even though voice actors are the ones who seem to have, not every voice actor, but most of the veteran voice actors they have a lot of different kinds of acting training. Theater, musical theater, on camera, ADR, voiceover stuff, and all this kind of. It's so classically trained theater actors, So it's the common sort of thread throughout all these people who are still in the business, 30, 40 years going on, some of them, is that they literally, they have to do it. It's not about money, fame, or any of that kind of stuff. It's literally about trying to express an idea, step into a different character's, a totally different person's shoes, aka character, and walking around in them for a little while, and playing pretend. I tried explaining it to this, to this one upset actor, and by the end of the call, I hope they got where I was coming from.
If it is the same person and situation I'm thinking of, I do believe that was actually a big help.
Okay.
So good on you for that.
So no, because I thought that was really important, especially for that person, because that person I care about. I want that person to be the best they can because they have the potential to just have fun doing this for a living. As long as they're not hard on themselves and kick themselves about, things that they think is failures. But, again, an actor, it's like you get booked for a job and then you get recast. that's like pulling the rug out from someone who's on crutches, Yeah. And it's like, and that was, that was one of those moments when it was, I know how to handle that moment now so that doesn't happen again to anyone else. So I learned something.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Which, and you know what? And hey, honestly, like I think this is definitely the same situation we're thinking of. We're being very vague. Everybody.
Yeah, well, that's on purpose because you guys don't need to know who it is.
But I think that was actually very important, not only just for that person and for that particular thing you were working on, but I think that was really important because that I think actually changed a little bit of how things work, so that, as you said, that kind of thing wouldn't happen again. Because that's one of those situations where it's like, not everybody's on the same page, and everybody may have a different idea of what they want or what needs to be done for the thing in question.
But it all goes back to also how this stuff is cast. A lot of times, anime especially, is cast by, you get a call from a casting director at a studio or whatever, and they're like, hey, we got this, and are you interested? Are you available on these days? If you are, we'd like you to record an audition. And then you get hired, you record an audition, and then you get hired for something. Well, that doesn't fucking fly. An actor, when they step into a character, they have to have some of that character in them, or they have to be insanely good liars to make it work. Not everybody.
Aren't we all insanely good liars in some?
Well, no, actually you're not, because it's one of those things where you are defined by the experiences you've had up to this point in your life. When you step behind the microphone or step in front of a camera, go out on stage, whatever.
So if you hadn't had certain experiences with certain people, certain personal experiences happen, you don't have the understanding of the workings, the inner workings of a person at their lowest, you know? And I'm talking even if you're playing a fantasy character. Every character is grounded by some kind of reality that an actor has to find. And so, you know, when a lot of anime is cast, video games too, it's cast by this sort of, it's cast by almost like remote, I guess I could call it. It's like, you know, the client will get these samples in, and then the client will pick, oh yeah, this person sounds great. And then, you know, the person shows up, and sure, they sound fantastic. Most voice actors do. But when you start getting down into the nitty-gritty of, you know, a scene, or the most important emotional scene, you know, the core of the entire emotional arc of the show, and this person can't deliver, well, that's a huge fucking problem.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but again, ADR, you know, dubbing anime to a large extent, dubbing anime is still considered value-added content. Some people don't, or some folks don't think that it's a featured thing. It's just it's like a special feature on a Blu-ray. Yeah. Aniplex, thank God, doesn't think like this. And Aniplex is the distributor I have the most experience with. You know, they actually treat it as if it's something special for the fans. You know, they know that, you know, the fans are very discerning, and there's a whole subcategory of fans that just follow dubs and dub actors, and they want to make it as good as possible. So their mastering process on the Blu-rays is like incredibly expensive to make sure that the sound is like fucking phenomenal. You know, and then of course the dubbing, it's got to be good, you know.
You were talking earlier about Hiroe, who I had the pleasure of seeing and hanging out a little bit with at Otakon. And even having not gotten to work with her directly, though, but I can tell that she shares that same kind of like passion and like, no, I want this to be good. Like, I want this to be like more than what people think it's going to be. Like this is, you know, this is part of, you know, this is an important part of the final product. This is not just an afterthought. And, you know, especially now too, where like there's so much stuff, it's so accessible, you know, and you know, I'm mostly happy that like a lot of the piracy problems, you know, are at least comparatively minimalized with stuff like Crunchyroll and et cetera. But yeah, when it comes to dubs, it's like there are times where I even worry of like, God, do people care? Even the people who like dubs, like, do they care anymore? You know, and especially when you have the added thing of like, you got to get it done quickly, you got to get it out, you know, ASAP. While the thing is, you know, you were joking earlier about. Like, oh, whatever, that show's old, but it's like, you know, but even to some extent, it's like after a while, it's like, yeah, no one cares about such and such show anymore, and like, whatever. So it's even keeping that balance, which has nothing to do with the quality of the production. Like even that's difficult.
Yeah,
you know.
It's because it's such a. I mean, it's with anime, it just seems like it's very. Especially these days when it's with the simulcasts and simuldubs and all that kind of stuff, it's just it seems like there's a lot of content and not enough time to ingest it all and savor it too, because there's just so much pounding you in the face. But the great thing about it is that there's something for everyone. It literally is a show for any kind of person. For me, from where I sit and stuff, again, you know, conventions don't really care about, you know, people who adapt and people who direct, people who record, people who mix. They only care about the voice actors because their fan base only cares about, you know, coming and getting your guys' autographs and pictures of you and then asking you, hey, do this line, or hey, what did it feel like recording this scene, and, you know, stuff like that. But what would a fan ask someone like me? Well, I have no fucking idea. Because it's, you know, it's like, what is it? Where would you start?
But again, it's kind of like it's one of those things where there's. I think a lot of people watch anime. There's a whole group of people who watch anime who don't give a shit about any of this. They don't care about the voice actors or who's voice acting it or anything. They're literally watching it just because it's there.
Yeah.
And those people, I care about those people because they're not invested. They don't have any extra investment in the show. Meaning, say, Christopher Niosi is playing the main character of this show. All of your fans, people who love your work in Tome and your work now on, OKKO, those people will come and they will love you. Not a whole lot of them are going to be very, critical about you or anything like that, right? And again, this is my opinion. I don't, this is just kind of like what I think. But there's a group of people who watch these cartoons who do not know who Christopher Niosi is, and they just want to watch a cartoon and just laugh for a little bit, or just be transported away by a story. They don't come with this extra baggage, this fan baggage, and those kind of people I really care about because those are the ones who are just looking to be entertained, and they don't have any investment in it. But if we can give them a damn good show in English, then maybe, just maybe, they'll watch the next episode, they'll watch the next episode, and then they'll go, oh my God, who wrote this show? Oh, the writer of this show also wrote, Madoka Magica. Oh, what is this Madoka Magica thing? Google is a powerful tool. And so then they'll go and then they'll watch Madoka. And then they'll enjoy that too. And then gradually they'll start going, oh my God, this is Japanese animation. Is this how...
There's more cool shit like this. There's oodles and oodles.
Yeah, and it's here's a story. Oh my God, what's this Yuri on Ice thing? Holy shit.
I'm so gay now.
In Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, which I love that fucking show. That is one show I wish I could work on. Because I that was such a sweet show. And so these people who aren't a part of quote unquote the scene, they start getting into it and then they discover this whole other world out there that I think is pretty fantastic with all these amazing stories. So I hope that didn't come off as me dissing the current fan base of dubs. I certainly don't want to do that, and that wasn't my intention. So if that did come off like that, I do apologize.
No, not at all. Not at all. Honestly, I agree because also it's it's certainly a case by case basis because I appreciate when there's like clever casting and like little fun things like that here and there, but overall, what on the opposite end, what I hate is novelty casting. As far as I know, maybe with one or two very minor exceptions, I don't think the grand majority of the work that I've done, I've been cast because I'm quote unquote Kerber. One, mostly because people don't give a shit because it doesn't matter, and two, because it's more about just like, well, can you actually deliver on this, like, etc. And I would prefer it that way because just like I wouldn't want. I'm going to get this person because they have like a bajillion YouTube subscribers and they'll make a video to plug it and then people will give a shit about the show. It's like, no, that's not, that's not the right thing to place value in.
And yet that has happened.
Yeah.
And, much to everybody's surprise and much to some people's, not surprise. It is what it is. And hopefully if they do cast people like that they do actually have the core of that character in them somewhere that a director who gives a shit can draw out of them at some point during the recording process. Hopefully the script that they have has dialogue that supports, their character properly. That isn't just the translation with hitches put in wherever the hitches go. Something that's actually been thought out.
something that actually has a rhythm and a style to it, and something that actually makes sense when you hear it. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but these are my sticking points, and these are the things that I beat myself up over about every minute of every day that I'm working on a script or working on a show.
Well, I mean, hey, look, man, it goes to show. I mean, a lot of the stuff you've done that's been on TV and that's done really well on home release and stuff, it goes to show. I really think. We've gone already into an hour now. I know we can kind of start winding down a bit, but I did want to end on a happy note of, you've gotten to do a lot of really, really cool shows. Like you've even just the ones I was listing in the beginning, like, whether they were on TV or not. I mean, I still remember when Haruhi was like the show of that year that was like taking over the universe. Sword art people still love. I still get people who adore Kill la Kill to this day, even though it's already been several years since that ended.
I've been lucky. I've been lucky.
Yeah. Lucky, but also I think that you've been a good fit on these. It's been nice to have that all come together.
Maybe maybe not. I mean, it's one of those. It's kind of a situation where if I get offered a show, I check it out, and if I like it, I accept the offer. If I like it and I can afford to work for the rate, I'll accept the offer. I like shows. I don't love shows right when I watch them. Mm-hmm. Very few times I loved shows when I watched it. Case in point, Haruhi fucking loved it. Lucky Star fucking loved it. Madoka loved it. Sword Art loved it. Kill la Kill. Okay, so I loved every one of the shows. Okay, including the thing I'm working on right now, which I can't tell you what it is, but still, it's so. But there are times in these shows when the flaws, like the cracks, start to show, and that's when I have to sort of sit back and go, okay, how do I start loving this show again, even with little flaws? And it could be filler episodes, it could be a plot point, or something. It could be something that it's the translation that I've been given just doesn't make sense, and I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? And then I have to sort of, if the client isn't available, I have to sort of figure it out on my own. But if it's an Aniplex show, the client, Hiroe, she's always available to talk to about this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like I end up. What's the word? I end up becoming. The show becomes the most important thing in my life. Mm-hmm. And I end up, working out whatever issues that I had with it. I end up making sense out of it somehow. If it's not in the dialogue, then at least it's in my heart. That way, when I talk to the actor and they're like, oh, God, this scene, then I'm like, well, here's why this scene is important. And I just let them know it's important because we need to have this scene because this character needs to be able to hate the bad guy so much when he finds out about this scene, something like that. Mm-hmm. So it all kind of works together.
Do you, I'm sure there's, God, so many, but like, do you have any particular favorite, moments or something funny, something dramatic, something silly, anything in particular from a lot of these shows? Any particular folks you've worked with?
Oh, like recording session, memories?
Yeah, just anything fun.
I remember the look on your face when I told you, or when I said, okay, so we have to pick up this line a third time, and then we didn't have to pick it up. I was like, oh.
Just to give context to that, I had a named character in Blue Exorcist season 2, or is it it's the Kyoto, the new Kyoto. Saga, and I had a small character, and then also I had a little bit part in a flashback that just this one monk guy who was talking about a MacGuffin plot device thing, and it was almost 3 times I had to come back in and fix something on it because I think the term was incorrect or something.
Yeah, what happened is that some of the fucking geniuses at Bang Zoom decided that, we're going to have someone look at the scripts and make sure, who's a fan of the show, and make sure everything is correct. But they did this at the last minute. And so it was like, wait a second. Number one, nobody told me this shit was going on. Number two, what the fuck are you doing? We're already started recording. Number three, what the fuck are you doing? So then I'm like, does the client have no say in this shit? So anyway, I had to, like, over the course of a couple of nights while recording. So after recording a full day, I'd have to go home at night and go through the scripts and all of this guy's notes and shit. And, it was one of those things where he pointed a lot of stuff out that was just kind of like, wait a second, what are you talking about? But there was a couple of things about the terminology where then I went back and I actually asked a priest about. And I was like, it was like, I walked over to this, Catholic church near here. And I was like, excuse me, Father, I have a question for you. And then it was like, no, I think you could use the term relic there. That would be okay. That would actually be okay. If it's a demon sword and this and that, I think you could use relic. And so it was like, God damn it! Sorry, Father, I gotta go back.
No one fucking else I can think of would actually. I'm gonna go to the Catholic Church and actually.
I mean,
that is.
I needed to find out what the hell. I mean, there's a difference between an artifact and a relic, and at the end of the day, which is it? Is it an artifact or is it a relic? Well, an artifact is kind of like, a relic is supposed to have like some kind of a piece of it's like you could consider an urn a relic, like an urn with the ashes of a saint or a Buddha or something like that, or a holy man or a holy woman in it. But for Rin's sword, and for people who haven't seen the Kyoto Saga yet, there's a whole little story about the sword and stuff. Is it a relic? Actually, yeah, it could be considered a relic. So it's, I mean, at the end of the day, I just felt bad,
I'm just trying. I'm trying to do my best, for Christ's sake.
And then other stories. God. I remember talking to Ben about the plan on how we were going to record his stuff at Erased, and we recorded it two different ways. When his character is commenting on the action on screen, I told Ben I had this idea. I'd like you to be seated as if you're watching the scene happening in front of you. And this was all kind of inspired by the opening of Erased, because the young Satoru and the old Satoru both come into a theater and sit down, and then the light comes on, and then the story is projected for them. And this also ties into the concept of, stuff going on in 2008, and the stuff going on when he's a kid in 1988. All the stuff in 1988 is actually in a different aspect ratio than the quote-unquote modern-day stuff. So I said, let's approach it that way, because your energy is going to be different if you're sitting down, especially if you're sitting down reclining as if you're watching a movie. And he was totally cool with that. But I remember the first day, Tony Solis, the recording engineer on that, we spoke about how to record him too, to give him to give the show a different feeling. Do we go off with a shotgun mic, a carotid mic? We didn't know, so we were going to test it out. Ben was so patient. We tried him out sitting down with a shotgun mic, and then the Sennheiser, whatever Q38 space modulator microphone. I don't know. And then standing up with both mics. And at the end of the day, we might have gotten, at the end of the session, we probably only recorded like 20 loops, and Ben was freaking out. And I remember laughing at him, going, dude, were you not here when we were working out all this shit about you sitting down versus standing versus this mic versus that mic? Don't fucking worry about it. that guy thought he wasn't going to be coming back because he went so slow. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, oh, Ben, no, not you. Don't do this.
Especially because Ben has been doing this literally since he was in the womb. I mean, he's the last person who should be worrying about giving a bad performance, and yet he still does. But I mean,
it wasn't the performance. It was his speed. He was worried about the fact that he wasn't going fast enough, even though we were interrupting him with all this other shit. He was still thinking that he needed to hit 30 loops an hour. And I'm like, oh, Ben, dude, don't even fucking worry about it. So we figure this out. We'll, as soon as we figure out what mic we're going to use and how, this and that. And then after that, it was no big deal because then it was just like Ben would show up and I'd be like, hey, Ben, so what do you want to do? Do you want to sit down and narrate today, or do you want to stand first? And then we'd mic him for whatever first, and then we'd go to it. And then, of course, we were hitting our schedule just fine. There's tons of embarrassing stories and stuff and all this stuff. But I don't know if I can go much beyond those right now, just because I don't know how the poor actors will feel about it. You guys are so vulnerable in there.
I know. Well, Ben is the nicest guy ever, so you can just make fun of him all day. And he'll just take it. He'll be like, nah, it's okay.
No. Ben's great. He was one of the when I first worked with him on Kill la Kill, I could feel it. I know this will sound really weird and new agey and stuff, but when he was doing the boxing club captain, Rhoda, when he was doing that, I was like, oh my God, why hasn't he been coming in and working on shows with me? It was just this, and just talking to him and stuff. It was like I don't know. It really felt like we were connecting like on a taste level. Like he knew exactly what kind of taste I was going for this particular character and for this particular scene. Not only that, he actually went above what I was thinking. He jumped over the fucking bar. And then of course when Takarada, when that character, came up and I was talking to Hiroe, Hiroe Tsukamoto, our Aniplex producer, about who to cast for Takarada. Hiroe and I looked at each other and we were like, and I said, what about that Ben Diskin guy? And this was after I'd already adapted his lines to be the sort of fantastic, whatever character I was hoping was going to fly. And I thought, oh my God, this Ben Diskin guy can totally understand this. But of course, we had to have an audition. So we sent the script out to Ben, and he recorded a little bit of the scene. And it was so funny. Hold it. Wait a second. Let me see if I have it. Because if I have it, I will play it for you. Because what he did at the end was probably the greatest thing I think I have ever heard in an audition.
Please! If you've got an MP3 of that, I could actually play that like right here.
Oh, wait a second. Where the fuck is it? I
believe in you. Oh, you don't? That's okay.
I don't have.
That's all right.
It was
more excuse, everybody. If you haven't seen Kill la Kill's English dub, please, dear God, treat yourself.
Well, the way that the audition went, as far as I remember, again, because I guess I don't have the MP3 or something now. But the way his audition went is it sounded pretty close to what Takarada sounds like in the show. And then at the end, he kind of just goes, "Fuck it, I don't know, I'm out. See ya, bitches." It was like I played it again and again and again just because it made me so happy. And then of course, there was still talking afterwards. There was still a little bit of concern. Are we sure you want to go with Ben and this and that? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Did you hear that audition? It's like, I don't know, but still,
that's Ben for you. I know he speaks very highly of you as well.
Oh.
embarrass him with that. No, man, I gotta watch Erased. There's so many good shows I've missed out on in the last few years that like I need to make a goal of myself to go through, and Erased was one. I think I was just bitter because I didn't get the main guy. No,
I know.
Ben was perfect. The little bit that I heard of Ben as the main guy in the trailers and stuff, I was like, no, he's amazing. I can't be bitter about it. And he's one of my best friends. So like, why would I ever be bitter about that? Why would I ever be bitter at Ben fucking Diskin for anything?
I mean, but you know what? I mean, do you talk about the actor's life on your podcast from your experience? Because I mean, I'm not an actor, but I know goddamn well I wouldn't be able to handle that kind of stuff emotionally well at all. Because I mean, it's just your friends, and you guys both go up for a part. I mean, does what I say in the end to you personally matter?
I think so. You know what? I think because look, like you were talking about this earlier with the other the vague thing we were talking about. I think it is good to like every artist, no matter whether they're an actor or otherwise, every kind of artist I think should always be learning, and especially if they're studying under somebody or they're working directly with somebody above them or otherwise in terms of position. I think that it is important for them to get something out of that. I actually even just I guess full disclosure, I had a callback for the main character of Erased, and I was just happy to have a callback. I was just happy that there were callbacks. I was like, oh wow, okay, like this shows to me that there is care being put into this, and I'm happy that the show is being well taken care of.
Yeah, and then and if you want to hear if the folks listening want to hear my side of the story, it came down between you and Ben Diskin. And in the end, after we did this very rare callback, which rarely happens in the world of anime, where you guys actually came in and we worked together on some scenes and stuff, you and Ben were both fucking amazing. Seriously, what it came down to was which voice matched the animation better. Meaning which voice matched the look of the character better. Like which seemed like it would be coming out of that face. And, that it was a hard choice to pick there too. Because again, both of you guys were very amazing. Totally different like perspectives. Your voices are similar in timbre, but different in how you speak. And they both had amazing, like you guys both brought a great spin to that character. But in the end, when we were playing back the stuff that we recorded after you guys had left, we were there for like another half hour or whatever, just sitting there playing it back over and over and over again. And, and then I opened my eyes. So instead of listening to it with my eyes closed, I opened my eyes, I looked at the picture, and I was like, I believe Ben's voice to come out. I believe Ben's voice is the one that's coming out of that face more than Chris's. If the face looked a little different, then I would go with Chris. And that's what it came down to. And I hope that doesn't like break your heart or anything.
No, not at all. Because look, same kind of thing. It's about the final product. Like if that is the gut instinct of you guys that serves the end product, then absolutely, like of course. And actually, it was funny because I think it quite coincidentally, I ended up playing a actually pretty similar character, even in terms of look, like same kind of like the short hair and the glasses and stuff and the fashion sense and all that on Napping Princess, which I did with Stephanie. By this point, it's had its theatrical run over here, which that was great and very similar kind of low key sort of style and everything with him.
Very cool.
And I didn't even think about this until now, but I mean, if anything, maybe that might have been a decent preparation. But no, and like I said, Ben. Well, that and also Ben is also a far more experienced than I could never ever be upset about losing out to him on something, and I want to watch that show. I really, really do want to sit down and check that show out, because I've heard like a lot of really good things about it, and and I've liked so much of your other stuff that I'm sure I will enjoy it. Maybe someday I'll watch Sword Art, for fuck's sake.
I mean, it's out there. I mean, literally, you can trip over it on the way to your car, probably. I don't know.
Just
so watch your step.
I trip over it on every other YouTube comment I get on a Tome episode. It doesn't help the fact that like half the cast of Tome is in it. That's why I was always like, the day I ever get on that show, I'm gonna just laugh my ass off all the way to the fucking studio. So if season 3 ever happens, fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen. But oh Lord.
But no.
Anyway,
again, for having me on and stuff, and thanks again for all your support in when we were working on Blue Exorcist. Again, it might not have been a big part, but I mean, you played it for real, and I mean, I appreciate it, and I hope.
Of course, no, dude. Of course, no. I had just a lovely time finally getting to work with you, and I hope that it will not be the last time.
Yeah, I mean, the next one. Hopefully, in the next one,
Faux shows.
Yeah. And by the way,
sir, thank you.
Later on, I hate to make this longer, but later on, we need to fucking talk about this intimidation thing, because that upsets me. I want names. I got to call these people up and make it right,
and just be like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Oh, I don't think anybody's like actually like afraid of you. I think that really is just a. You know what? I think actually I'll go on a limb and say I think that the new generation, the youngins, I think are actually very lucky to have folks like yourself who are very supportive and real with them about how this stuff goes. I think that's really good. That you put some hair on their chests, even if they're women. I think you've I think you do good. You do right by everybody. So no, I hang your I can't even say proverbial hat, because you really do wear a hat. Yes. Cool. Well, Alex, thank you. This was splendid. And everybody out there, thank you for listening. If any of y'all have any comments or anything regarding any of the shows that he's worked on, any favorite moments, favorite things, etc., like that, whether it's Kill Madoka Magica, Erased, Sword Art, anything at all. Let us know. Mayhaps I'll link him to the comments later if you're so daring to look at them.
Oh no, totally.
Yeah. And also, hey, you know what? Fuck it. Write to your local cons. Get Alex invited and get your own inside scoops from him beyond this, because I don't know, more people like him should get to go to cons and bestow these sick truth beats down on you. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. It's late. I need food. That's gonna do it. Keep an eye out for. I'll be announcing the next few very cool guests that I'm going to be having joining me on here for the rest of the month, and on Twitter. So keep an eye out on that, and look forward. I hope you'll enjoy this year's Voiceoctover, and keep watching good anime dubs and stuff. We will see you all next time. Fare thee well.
Thanks again, Chris.